taking out a loan against the business. When you take
Are my
out a loan
shares in
against
my
a
company,
business,
listen, are my shares in my company tangible?
no.
Because I own all the shares to my company. No, they're not. If I took my a loan against my shares in my company
Yes.
and then used that to go to Turks and Caicos with my girlfriend, would that be okay under your view? Would that not be illegal
Oh
under
boy.
your view?
You know what? You know what? Let me see if I can break it down for you the easiest way I think I can. If when Elon Musk takes out a loan against his share in Tesla, who is liable for that loan?
Oh, so here's maybe the response is that some people are saying you don't have shares because your company isn't public. Doesn't it still? So if I made my company public and I owned 100% of my shares, should I be able to do that?
Why can't if you're taking out a loan against your shares, you can because that's not
I
a
guess
loan
maybe I'd have
against
to
the
sell it to go
business.
public if that was what it was. So I don't know.
Yeah, because
I
that's not
think
a
here's
business.
my view. Here's my view. I think this is not something that you should be able to do. Okay?
That's fine.
So any type of situation where this is happening, that should just be deemed as
Parker, the
fraud or
point I'm
tax evasion, right? Because
Parker,
they're
the
using
point
it
I'm
on
trying to
personal
make
expenditures, not on.
Parker, the point I'm trying to make is that if you were to get your way and implement that law, Parker, what you're now going to do is that you're going to tell someone who takes out a loan against their house that they can't use the money to do that. Because it is no different. When someone takes out a money against their house to go on holiday, to do home repair, to do personal shit, to go and get an M3, all of that is no different than taking out a
That's
loan
not to
against your
avoid taxes,
shares.
though. Do you
It
understand? That's
doesn't
not to avoid taxes.
matter. Not because you're not efficient at the tax code, Parker, doesn't mean
Do you
that
understand that I'm referencing it's tax fraud and tax evasion, so it has to be in reference to the taxes. What you're referencing has nothing to do with limiting your taxes.
Parker, Parker, someone inability to take advantage of the tax code is not really my problem. The whole point I'm trying to make is if you get your way, which is make it to be a fraud for you to take out a loan against your asset and do whatever you want to do with it, you are now going to be punishing everyone, including persons who are taking out a loan against their house or whatsoever. You can create a delineation and say, well, they're only doing this to do tax fraud. If you want to bring them to court and try them for doing it in an attempt to do tax fraud, be my guest, but you will lose. What I'm saying is that what you're advocating for has down the road consequence, which makes it difficult for just the average person to live their life. This is why I'm saying you're trying to punish the rich. And in an attempt to punish the rich, you're going to end up screwing over everyone under without touching the rich. It is impossible, Parker, impossible for you to punish the rich
You're just
without
not listening to
affecting
me.
the poor. No,
So,
I'm telling you
so
what the
let me explain.
consequence of your action is going to be.
But that's not what the consequence is going to be because in one scenario, the intent is to evade taxes, and the other scenario has nothing to do with the tax
You're going to have to
obligation.
prove
So,
intent. You're
and
going to
also,
have to
by the
prove
way,
intent.
what's up? What's up?
You just said the intent is to evade tax. That's
Yes,
fine. You're going to
and
have
you
to
can
go to court
identify
and
that
prove
with
that.
individuals. Yes, you can.
Go on to court, then go to court and prove that. Then evading tax is illegal.
Yeah.
So if what you're trying
You
to
understand?
okay,
Wait. By the way,
evading tax is
that's what.
already
Wait.
illegal.
Listen. That's why I'm saying this should be designated as something that's illegal, so that we could go after individuals.
You want
These are
if you were
closing
to do
tax
that,
loopholes.
Parker?
This is not. Let me clarify.
Sure, Parker.
In application, I would never apply this to an individual who specifically is just trying to, take out a loan against their house in order to pay for something in in their life. That's not the circumstance, especially
Parker.
if we're referencing just one
Unfortunately,
person's one house. Like, we're not referencing like
Parker.
real estate properties that
Parker.
they own.
Parker. Unfortunately, what you're advocating for, if you do some research into it, I can guarantee you're going to actually see the downhill effect of it. What you're
Okay, well, I
saying
disagree
is
with you.
in that's fine. You
Okay.
can disagree with me, but I have sat down and thought about this long enough. And I'm telling you, Parker, there's no way for you to punish the rich without hurting the poor because the rich has something the poor doesn't have. And that's a shit ton of their money and lawyers to tell them exactly how to circumvent this entire system. And if you're going to create a system that the rich cannot circumvent, how is the poor going to survive in that country? I'd love for you to explain to me how you're going to create a system where the richest set of people in this world are going to end up suffering without the poor suffering. I would
Well,
love for you to show me that
so
system.
think about it this way: a progressive tax structure. Do you agree that when you get higher levels of income, that you are going to be treated differently than you get lower levels of income?
Of course, but do you want
Could
to
you
know
set
how
up
I would,
could you set up a progressive structure for the enforcement of tax evasion?
You see the different, no, you see the difference between you and I now is that you want a progressive tax system. I don't. If you want to know what my opinion on how
You
I
don't want
would
to
have fixed
progressive.
this,
Wait, but by the way, I'm just asking if this was applicable, and that gets rid of the
Parker,
entire concern that you just brought
Parker,
up.
Parker,
Even if this
Parker,
was a
Parker.
concern, and even if we did apply this, you could have a progressive enforcement of that.
I don't want a progressive tax system. I would have a
I
completely
do.
different tax system.
Okay,
Okay,
what
that's
progressive?
fine.
What
And
system? You want a
okay,
flat tax?
I would prefer a flat tax, and I can defend a flat tax. I can't defend a progressive.
So I think progressive is preferable. So like, let me ask you this question: do you think someone
Fine.
making $500 should pay the same
Yes.
tax rate as someone that made $500 million in 1 year?
Yes. Because the person who made $500 million in 1 year is still going to have to is still going to be paying more than the person who made the low amount. They're still going to fundamentally pay more. You see, the way how I would amend that is I would get rid of all of the leeways that companies get. And I would just put a flat tax rate on whatever money they bring in. So there's no incentive for them to try to circumvent the system and find nice and tricky ways to do stuff. Because like a company can turn over $2 billion profit and they're going to sit and they're
Oh,
saying, okay, this is $2 billion
that's a bad
of profit.
idea.
1 minute. 1 minute. This is a $2 billion profit. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to get rid of this $2 billion profit and reinvest it into something else. And then as a result, don't have to pay any tax. In my system, they have no motivation to do that because you're going to have to pay the damn tax from the money that they got anyway. It's a flat. I'll just remove all of their incentive and all of their loopholes by making it apply right across the board. You see, just like how the average man, the firefighter that goes to work cannot claim back their fuel that they drove to that they used to go to work as a tax they can't get that they can't put that down as a business expense. It will be the exact same for businesses.
So there's actually issues with that. There's multiple issues I can bring up. So
There are
it
multiple
does have.
issues. I agree. No system is perfect.
Okay, so can I? I don't know why you just felt the need to
Definitely. Go
saying
ahead.
that.
I'm sorry. Yep. Sorry. Carry on.
Yeah. So one thing that you're not categorizing here is that in terms of the flat tax system, the flat tax structure, that doesn't create an incentive as much to reinvest into a business. Having high top marginal tax rates is actually associated with increases in wages and reinvestment into firms because it incentivizes a particular business to reinvest in their firm rather than being taxed upon that, right, on the highest levels of income that they get. So it's a difference in the level of marginal tax rate. Whereas if you have a flat tax, you're going to likely have a lower tax level, which will not incentivize reinvestment as much, and it will incentivize them specifically to pull it all out to a greater extent. Also, in order to be able to pay for systems that we have in terms of governmental processes, you're going to have a high flat tax. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to pay for the typical social services that we have right now, considering a flat tax. And is it a flat tax on
You
revenue or
see,
profit?
uh personally, I'd probably put it on revenue because if it's on profit,
Oof.
then you just
That's going
don't.
to destroy a lot of businesses because they rely on very small profit margins. So if you specifically are literally doing it based upon revenue, you're not considering the people they employ, you're not considering the specific industry and the level of profitability in the industry. You're going to fuck over a lot of industries. I just want to let you know that.
You know what?
That's why.
You know
That's
what
why
the funny
people.
thing
That's why people
about it
don't
is?
typically bring up
No,
net
1
revenue
minute.
taxes. By the
I'm
way,
going to ask
which,
you.
by the
I'm
way,
going to ask a
a net
question.
revenue tax could
I'm going to
actually
ask
generate
you.
a lot of revenue. But
You know what? I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a question. What tax system are we currently in? Is it a progressive tax system? What tax system are we currently
yeah,
in?
it is.
It is a progressive tax system, and you're here complaining about that tax system. You see,
Not being
that's
as
what I'm
progressive
talking
as I
about.
would want. Yeah.
Okay, so you're just saying it's just
And
not
that
progressive
Donald Trump is
enough.
trying to shift it to being less progressive. Yeah, that's what I'm complaining about.
Okay,
Is I
that's
want it to
fine.
stay progressive.
Listen,
Donald Trump is shifting it to be less progressive, and I want to maintain its
listen.
progressive nature.
I've seen the result of this progressive tax system, and it's not really cutting it out, because in this progressive tax system that
Name
you're
one
just
system that
talking
has a
about and
flat tax
giving.
that's really good.
Say again.
Name one system around the world that has had a flat tax that has produced better conditions for the people.
I've I think most systems use progressive tax system. Most
Is there a
countries use
single
progressive tax
historical
system.
example you can provide?
Not off the top of my head. Or you saying it has never been tried?
I'm just saying I don't know a single example in which it's been beneficial.
I'm asking, has it ever been tried?
Has a flat tax ever been tried? I'm assuming that it has. I don't know of many examples though.
Okay. I'm looking at every Western country here in the United States, Europe, and all of those
I'm talking about
countries. All of them
historically
use
though.
progressive. Yeah, but every one of them are using some form of progressive tax rate, and everyone is still crying about it.
Yeah,
So
because we
I'm
want it to be
more than
progressive to a greater extent, not that we want it to be flat.
okay. You want it to be more progressive, and the more progressive is going to cause way more problems, such as all of the billionaires just fleeing. Like every time they increase a tax rate in
Oh
one
my gosh,
state,
the
all of them
billionaires are
just
going to leave. The billionaires are going No, this is where the consumer market is. They're not going to leave. Push the booming heart. That's not how it works. Otherwise, someone else will be more profitable. That's how the market works.
no. You see, no. You see what you just did there is that you didn't even unless they
By
can
the way,
have
I
their
want you to
business
make
there. They
another
don't
point
need
here real
to
quick,
do
and then I probably want to go on to the next person. You've been on for like an hour and 45 minutes or so.
shit. Fucking hell.
I know, right?
Yes, sorry about that.
I didn't even realize that until now, to be honest with you.
Okay. What did you want me to answer? And I'll happily go.
You know,
But
just go
thank you
ahead,
for the
say your
convo.
last points, and then I'll make sure to move on. I typically have people up for an hour, like it kind of just went beyond that, but
Okay, but what did you want me to ask me? You said you had a point that you want me to answer.
oh, well, I forgot it. I don't know. I think I was
Okay.
asking you to bring up your last point. That's what I thought I was asking.
Okay, the whole point of the topic was why do I still support Trump? The only thing that I'll say is that so far I don't agree with everything that he does. He isn't doing everything the way I think he probably should go about doing it. But I see him as the best person who is actually trying to do something. He might be going fast and breaking a lot of stuff without to some degree seeming a little bit chaotic in the moment and stuff like that. But I do understand and believe the intention behind it, and I do believe that the intention behind it creates enough incentive to at least stop the problem from continuing to bleed out. And then from there, when you actually stop the bleeding, then we can work on all of the other stuff. It's like getting into a car crash. If you're bleeding out, they're going to have to stop the bleeding. When they stop the bleeding, then we can work out how we're going to repair the ribs and all of that. That's how I see it. And I believe that his actions, while they seem brutal, um, seem very inhumane and a lot of other stuff. I do believe to some degree that persons are seeing it and they are now decentivized to do the same stuff that they used to do, and to some degree changing the way how it is going to go. And that's the way how I see it.
Alrighty. Well, I appreciate you coming up.
No, thank you, and I appreciate you. Been a very good conversation, at least on the first talk.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming up. Have a good day. Let's go on to probably the last person here for today. I have a few people to thank real quick before we do. So probably be the last person here for today. Rex, thank you so much for the $10. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Get some W's for them in the comment section right now. Thank you, thank you. Oh, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Rex. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. Tanner, thank you for the $5. Thank you. Maybe. I've met him before in the past. He's really cool. Elizabeth, thank you for the $10. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And Jed, thank you so much for the $10 as well. Thank you so much for the appreciate. Thank you. I'm really behind on a lot of these donations. Holly, thank you so much for the $20. Thank you so much, Holly, on PayPal. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Sibel, thank you so much for the $5. Thank you. And Judy, thank you for the $15. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you, as well as Elise. Thank you so much for the $5. Thank you. Thank you. I do have some people to thank on YouTube real quick. Let's get this last person up here for today, though. Rainbow, thank you for the $20. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you. I'm so happy to hear that. W's for them in the comment section right now. Glad to hear that. As well as Snow, thank you for the $50. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you. They always do. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Snow, give some W's for them in the comment section right now. Thank you for the $50. Thank you so much. Let's go on to the last person here for today. Dean should be on around 5 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. Just letting everyone know. That's when he said he will be live. And I'm assuming that I'll be live later tomorrow, everyone. Or actually, wait, no. I actually might be live earlier tomorrow. I apologize. I'll keep everyone updated on Instagram. Let's get the last person up here. Only do send a guest request if you meet that criteria on the screen. Yo, what's up? How old are you? What's up? How old are you? Okay, let's get this next person up here.
Do a live out of you, kitty pie.
So the next individual, only send a guest request if you meet that criteria on the screen, everyone. We are just looking for some debates, everyone. Let's get this last person up here for debates. If you're on YouTube, I would really appreciate if you hit that thumbs up, everyone. Seriously, helps get out to more people. Let's try to get to 2,500, everyone. I'd really appreciate it in terms of the likes. Yo, what's up? How old are you?
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
You're good. Don't worry. Let's go to the last person here for today, y'all. Only do send a guest request if you meet that criteria on the screen. Yo, what's up? How old are you?
19.
Do you support Trump?
Yeah.
I don't believe you, actually, that you're 19. Keonan, thank you so much. Really appreciate the $10. Thank you. How does YouTube know when you are live? You can turn notifications on YouTube, and that will help ensure that you know when I go live. That's really the best place to know, honestly. And when you turn notifications on my YouTube, really the only things you'll get is notification of 3 different videos I post today, a short, all around the same, or actually not around the same time, but around 3 or so. Yo, what's up? How old are you? Yo, what's up? How old are you? Hello? Hey, Max, you there? This person was spamming the comment section earlier saying, Parker, address the allegation. I don't even know what allegation they'd be referencing, but they were just like spamming that in the comment section. And now they're not even going to speak. Hello? Max, are you there? Hello, Max. You were spamming for how long? They did the same thing to Dean? Okay, well, that's unfortunate. They had Dean in the profile picture. They're just like trolling, it seems like. Yo, what's up? How old are you?
You're a nigger.
You're disgusting. Let's go to the next individual. Only send a guest request if you meet that criteria on the TikTok screen. We are just looking for some debates. Yo, what's up? How old are you? How old are you? Okay, everyone, I'm really trying to get some debates up here. I apologize. Alrighty, let's get this next individual up here. Let's go to the next individual. Okay, stop spamming my comment section, trolls. Like, I literally know your accounts at that point. Like, why do you keep doing it? Let's go to the next individual. Only do send a guest request if you meet that criteria on the TikTok screen. Let's get this next person up here. Yo, what's up? How old are you?
My pussy.
Okay, I'm going to try a few more people. If I can't get someone up here for debates, we'll just call it for today, everyone. At this point, I don't know what I could do. But yeah, if you want to support me, as always, everyone, Venmo, PayPal, link tree in the bio, as well as the description of the YouTube. As well as you can support me over YouTube Super Chat, as always, everyone. How do you get Parker's notifications on? Yeah, look up how to turn
I
on.
love you, Parker. You the GOAT, bro.
Appreciate you very much. I think it's right next to like when you subscribe, like right next to the button where you subscribe. It should have like a button to like a bell where you can click and turn on notifications. I could actually click and try and check, but I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I can't really see on mine. Yeah, I think it's right there. It's right next to it. It should be at least. Yo, what's up? How old are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Do you support Trump?
I'm 52. Absolutely.
Okay, if the
How about
election were held
yourself?
today, Harris versus Trump, who would you rather vote for?
Harris versus Trump. Who would I rather vote for? Well, I definitely voted for Trump over a year and a half ago, or about a year ago, whatever it was, and I don't regret it one bit.
Okay, why do
How
you
about
support
yourself?
Trump? Harris.
Kind of the core tenets of border security, less crime. I am pro life, and his stance on that is a little mushy in certain ways, but in the same token, results matter. And his appointment of Supreme Court judges that were pro life basically resulted in Roe getting overturned. So that was important.
Okay. So you said border security, less crime, and abortion. So there's a few things I
Yep.
want to address here. One is that the Democrats supported specifically keeping the border secure, like literally had a bipartisan border bill that would have secured the border and made the legal process go quicker. They wanted to address crime. She was a former prosecutor and former district attorney,
I'm
former
listening.
attorney general, and actually like held people accountable for committing crimes, whereas Donald Trump's a convicted felon and has actively committed crimes under his administration, including literally not releasing all of the Epstein files, right, which is violating the law, right, in the manner in which they
Well, first
explicitly
of all,
were told to in the Epstein Files Transparency Act.
the situation is, I understand the Epstein files, and in a way, I would like all of them to be released. However, Biden didn't release them, and Trump's doing way more than Biden ever did in releasing
By the way, are
most
you
of them.
driving?
My wife is. I'm in the car,
Okay,
like
okay,
in
for
the
sure.
passenger seat. Yeah.
That's fine. So sorry, what were you just saying? Say what you just said.
No, I mean, like the Epstein files, I get it. I wish he would release all of them. But in the same token, he released, a good amount of them, which is more than Biden ever
I
did.
remember. But okay, so you
Yeah.
said Biden should have released them. So Biden didn't control the DOJ under his administration. There was a separation between the DOJ and between his administration. You can blame that on Merrick Garland, but one thing you have to consider is that it was sealed through 2024, right? So they couldn't have access to it all, along with the
Okay.
fact that there were investigations into co-conspirators and appeals into Ghislaine Maxwell through 2025. Now, I do believe that it required a law through Congress to get it passed, and Congress should have supported the release of it prior, right, when they had the chance to release it at any point in which they did. So yeah, that is something that should have been the case. But I do believe that if the Democrats were in office right now, that they would have actually fulfilled the law, right, and forced the executive forced the DOJ to release the files.
I think that's hypothetical.
Sure, but I mean, we knew that they failed the law.
Well, I heard nothing about the Epstein files under the Biden administration, whether he'd control the DOJ or not, quote unquote. But the reality is, I mean, there was never any push to release them at any point until Trump became president. And I mean, to a certain degree, the Epstein files.
Not true.
Why do you want
Trump
them
had
released?
pressure to release them prior to becoming president.
Well, yeah, but why release all of them to a certain degree? To exonerate whom, or to indict whom? Is it a Trump witch hunt, or do you want everybody to be accountable?
I want everyone to be held accountable, right, left, independent. Every single person that's involved with this shit should be held accountable. No one specifically should be able to run. Anyone, whether they're right, left, or independent, it should be illegal for them to run if they are found to have done something here, right?
Right.
Like anyone specifically who has protected them from being released or protected the PDFs should be held accountable and shouldn't be supported. Whether they're on the right, the left, the independent, I don't give a shit. I do not support people who do this shit.
Right. Hey, I'm in agreement with that. I would like to see all the Epstein files released, but in the same token, it's most people on the left, it seems to me, when it comes to the Epstein files, do they even care that much about anybody but Trump? It doesn't seem like it.
I
It
do.
seems to be more of a
I
witch
think
hunt.
most people do. We all want to hold people accountable. It's just the reason why we focus on Trump is because he's the president, has the capacity to release the files, right?
Yeah,
Because
okay.
he has no independency between
I
him and
never
the
heard
DOJ.
I never heard any type of, surge of, hey, we want this released from the left until Trump became president.
Well, I had wanted to be. I
When
actually
Biden
made a
was president,
video.
there was like I never heard about it.
I had made a video about this prior to Trump becoming president. You can scroll back on my
Okay.
page. There's a video of me talking about it because Trump was asked about whether or not he was going to release the files, and I'm like, why wouldn't you release the files if you have the capacity to? So obviously,
Right.
like that's something that I had said. Now, there being a greater societal push for it, sure. Like, I mean, I could acknowledge that, but there are plenty of factors for why that's the case, right? Like the fact that Donald Trump has tried to prevent the release of it.
Yeah, there does come a point though. Is he privy to information, as is others, that is almost like too heinous that you almost don't want it released? I don't know. You know what I'm
Well, I
saying?
mean, a lot of the stuff that's already been released is incredibly heinous, but I mean, I just don't see that to be a legitimate explanation or a good reason at all.
Okay. But back to, one thing I mentioned, right? I never even mentioned the Epstein files. I said lower crime, better border security, pro-life. Any mention on that or?
So better border security, you want better addressing of crime. I think we already addressed both those. The only one that we haven't addressed yet is abortion. In terms of that, I do agree that Donald Trump is the one that overturned Roe versus Wade. I actually think that's a bad thing.
Why is
I'm
that a bad thing?
pro-choice. Well, I'm pro-choice. I believe that it's there's no reason to say that it's morally wrong prior to sentience, which is around 20 through 24 weeks in the womb. So like, there's really no reason to say that it would be wrong prior to that point for someone to get an abortion.
Well, are like stopping a beating heart, does that not bother you morally?
No, not at all.
Well,
Like,
then that would be
do
murder.
you think it's murder to pull the plug on an individual in your family that's brain dead? They can have a beating heart.
If it is in their will,
No, not in their
they've
will,
already
nothing. They
prior,
haven't
if they've
established it at
already
all.
been,
Can the family make that determination?
well, you're kind of comparing apples and oranges though,
Not
because
at all. There's a heartbeat.
there's a heartbeat, but if somebody's brain dead and in their will they said, hey, we don't want to live,
Nothing
then
in their will. I
could
said they
see.
don't have a will.
Oh, they don't have a will, then yeah, you keep them alive.
So you think that it should be illegal to pull the plug on an individual in their family that's brain dead that has not established a will?
Yeah.
And you think if you do pull the plug that's murder?
Yeah.
So you think a lot of doctors and nurses out there are murderers, right? Because that's typical practice because they're deemed to be dead.
Well, no, if the law was like that, then it would be murder. Yeah.
But like you consider it morally speaking murder. So you think they should go to prison for doing that.
But I'm sorry, can you say that again?
So you think morally speaking it is murder, so you think they should go to jail for that.
If the law was that
No,
would
you,
be
you
murder,
think the
yeah.
law should be that way.
Oh, okay. So you're saying like what would I say?
Yeah, like you
Um
think the law should be that way. Does that make sense?
yeah. Um I think there would be some type of repercussion if there wasn't anything in the will.
Yeah,
But
but
I
it would
don't
have to be the
know.
same as
I don't know
murder
if I
because
don't know
you
if
just
I'd
said
go so
ending
far.
a beating
I,
heart is murder.
well, yeah, that's true. But in the same token, a baby doesn't have, they're not brain dead.
Oh, yeah, but prior to sentience, they are not brain alive,
Says who?
says neuroscientists.
I mean, I have kids. I saw them, in their scans prior to being born, and they were moving,
Yeah,
which a brain dead
moving doesn't
person
mean
won't
that
be
they.
moving.
Wait, by the way, moving doesn't mean that. That just means that there's some sort of muscle response. After you kill an insect and you still see a muscle response, are they still alive?
I'm not talking about insects.
But like, I'm just saying that there's a
Yeah, I mean,
muscle a muscle reaction and response, not
That's after they're dead.
necessarily
Yeah, I
an
mean there could be
experience
some
that's
type of
producing that.
neurological. There could be some type of neurological reflex. I don't know, but
Yes,
I mean
reflex.
the reality is you're talking about a baby who's has a beating heart, like I said, but also has I can't say they don't have brain waves, they don't have brain activity, they don't have some neurological stimulation going on. And we all know what a 20-week
No,
old
prior to
baby's
23.
going to be.
Yeah, prior to 20 through 24 weeks, there's not the necessary elements of the brain that are going to produce a subjective experience.
So there's been babies born at 22
Like
weeks that
sperm
survive.
moves, sperm moves. Does that, because sperm moves, does that mean that they're sentient?
No, but you're comparing a sperm to a 22-week-old baby, and there
No, not
have been
22, not
instances of
22. At 22, that would be sentient. I'm saying prior to
you
that
said.
point, that's not sentient.
I thought you just said 22 or 23 weeks.
22 to 24 weeks is when it becomes sentient.
I don't know. Like, I have a hard time believing a baby that's 21 weeks, 15 weeks, has no brain capacity to know what's happening.
Yeah, at 15 weeks, it does not have the ability to be sentient.
21 weeks in the buzz when the baby's born.
Yeah, it's a living baby. It's going to be born. Everybody knows it's going.
Not a baby, but yeah, it's. You said it's going to be born in the future. Oh, you could say the same thing about a fucking cellular organism at conception, right? Do you care about zygotes?
Yeah, that's a life too.
Okay, so do you think it's murder to engage in the use of IVF when you discard multiple zygotes and embryos every single time you engage in the process?
Yeah, it would be.
You think that's serial murder?
Whether or not we're going to sit here and charge somebody, I don't know, but I think I would consider it murder.
Okay, so you consider that murder. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be consistent. I mean, life begins at conception.
Okay, so then you think that people should go to prison for discarding zygotes and embryos. Do you think it should be okay to freeze or put babies in freezers?
So I think it's okay to put babies in freezers? What do you mean? What?
Yeah, do you think it's okay to put your baby in a freezer?
No.
Okay, so then do you think it's okay for people to freeze embryos?
I don't agree with it.
You disagree with freezing embryos?
Yeah, why? Why not? Yeah.
You think that's bad? You think it's abusive to freeze embryos?
Listen, I don't know if it's bad. It's not. It's like not something I would go about doing it. The way I would do it.
So is it abusive to put your baby in a freezer?
Yes.
So is it abusive to put your embryo in a freezer?
Well, an embryo wouldn't be. I mean, you're talking about a baby that would be like. I'm picturing like a 6-month-old baby. If I'm going to put him in a freezer,
No, we're talking about an embryo, not a six. No, we're not.
No, you
talking
said
about
you're
a
asking
fetus.
me about a baby, and then I'm thinking about like the comparison to an embryo in a freezer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
The embryo can survive in the freezer.
Yeah.
The baby can't.
Well, I mean, if the baby survives and doesn't die, would you then say it's not wrong or not abusive?
If the baby survives and it doesn't die, like for 10 minutes, you're just going to put it in a freezer?
Yeah, you just put it in a freezer and you close the door.
You're not going to do that. It would be abusive, and you would be arrested.
Yeah, exactly. But like, would that be okay to do if it was an embryo? So embryos aren't babies, right?
They are babies, but you're talking about preserving a life.
So it's okay to put some babies in freezers? I
mean, we're talking about preserving a life with an embryo comparatively to just putting a baby in a freezer. I mean, it's sort of a fallacious argument.
It's like life support. It's just...
Well, the point that I'm making is that, like, if you consider it a baby, you at least have to say that some babies, it's okay to put them in freezers.
No.
You literally have to say that. Like, if you think an embryo is a baby and you think embryos should be able to be put in freezers, you literally have to say that you think some babies should be put in freezers.
A A baby.
But it's a baby, like an embryo. You're talking about like the objective of the embryo in a freezer, like you're talking about, is survival, and you're basing this off on procreation and continuing procreation. Putting a baby in a freezer would kill the baby. What are we saying here?
You're not understanding. If you're saying in all circumstances putting a baby in a freezer would kill the baby, then you're saying an embryo is not a baby because if you put it in a freezer, it doesn't kill it. Does that make sense? Like, are you saying it's an essential property of being a baby that if you put it in a freezer for long enough, it will die?
I'm sorry. Maybe it's been a long day, but I'm not following you.
Stages of baby. A baby and an embryo is still a baby, but it can be in a freezer at that point because that's how you preserve
Yeah. So
life.
some babies, it's okay to put them in freezers, right?
Not some at that stage of that baby, sure,
Okay.
because it's scientifically able to survive in a freezer as a way to preserve it so that it can then be birthed.
Okay.
But a
So like
6-month-old baby cannot be put in a freezer. That would be killing a baby.
Right.
Yeah, okay, so like the point I'm making in general is that we don't typically refer to it as a baby. So when he's trying to say baby to moralize it in a certain manner, when it's at that point, right, there's no produced subjective experience. You're just talking about cellular life. Oftentimes, for the zygote, for example, you're talking about a single cell organism. And like I just don't see any good reason to say that you would want to prioritize that over someone who's sentient, who is having experiences, being able to control their own body.
But if our creator made it so that the sperm and the egg met to meet together to create a life, who are you to take that life away?
Well, I don't think that just because something happened that it means it's from your creator, right? Like you believe that it's from the free will of two individuals, not from just your creator. And that's what produced this action, right? The fact that there's a baby is from two people's willful actions in typical circumstances.
I truly feel like that baby's plan, his life and everything was already planned before the free will of two, like that child's life was planned before anybody had free will of doing any, so.
Yeah, you're saying God, but by planned, you mean like God knew this was going to happen? Or are you saying God instilled that this was going to happen in reality?
God had that life
planned.
Yeah, that was all part of his plan and design.
So like intentionally, he put it into reality.
Well, he set the table to make man and woman, and
so you didn't have the free will to choose what partner you're going to be with because that was chosen by God.
You definitely have free will, but there's
so if
also
you do choose what partner you're with, then that's not chosen by God. How is it God's plan? Are you saying God just knew about it, that it was going to happen, or that God intentionally led to this happening?
God knew about it and knew, like,
orchestrated designed.
I don't know what orchestrated it would mean.
So
do you mean like he put the soul into the body?
So put it this way. Every life created, all right, let's look at human lives. Every human life created, God knew was going to be a life.
Okay. So how about miscarriages? Did God create all miscarriages?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then God created those beings to just kill them?
Well, not to kill them, but I mean they died, and it wasn't in His will for them to live a full life.
You just said that was their plan, though. So it was God's plan that they would die.
I'm
in a
saying
miscarriage.
You're saying to kill them. I'm saying that they died, and He knew they would die. It's there's a difference between dying and getting killed. There's a fine line.
Let me clarify. There are biological functions that lead to zygotes that are formed, not implanting every single time. There are biological functions that lead to certain types of miscarriages that occur, right? And those biological functions are things that are not dependent upon us as humans' actions. So they're independent of our actions. If they're independent of our actions, that means it's not dependent upon our free will, and it would be programmed by God, under your view.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it's programmed by God, then God is programming them to go be alive, to then just be killed.
Not killed.
Not killed.
But
You
he
keep on saying the
programmed it. If
term
he
kill.
programmed it, then it is killed.
Not necessarily.
It is.
I mean, like, he knows the days of our lives, they're numbered. That's clear. But it doesn't mean that if you die, he killed you.
So he just knows the action. He didn't cause the basis of our biology to function this way. Because I think God, because if you believe this, God literally created our biology to function in a certain way. Like, I think that's an
Correct.
obvious point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so if God created our biology to function a certain way, and this is a biological function, that means God created it that way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so then
I'm
God
wondering
created
I don't know where
miscarriages
you're
to
going.
happen because that's a biological function.
Yeah, I mean, well, the purpose of procreation isn't a miscarriage, but miscarriages do happen because we're not perfect creatures.
But you're saying this is all a plan of God's. So God planned that they were going to be miscarried. So God planned they never would live and that they would
I
just
don't
be
know,
miscarried.
God knew there would be a miscarriage, whether or not this was his original
Wait, but you said
intention.
God creates all biological functions. So if God created the biological function of a miscarriage, that means God literally caused this.
He maybe didn't cause it,
he
but
said-
he allowed it because maybe there was like a genetic, a
But
genetic
he created our
issue.
genes to work that way, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
but it
so
doesn't
then
mean everything.
he made it
doesn't
function
mean
that way.
It doesn't mean every life's going to be perfect, and we're all perfect.
But he made it function that way.
Well, a miscarriage can happen, so that is part of God's creation. That miscarriage is going to happen. I don't know what you're saying exactly.
Yeah, but like God created the biological function of a miscarriage. God created these people knowing that they would just be miscarried right away because he created the biological function of miscarriage, correct?
God created the biological function of procreation between a man and a woman, and a miscarriage is a byproduct of an abnormality or something, that many different reasons why a life doesn't take place the way
But
it
all
should.
byproducts are derivative of God. The byproducts of how it works is going to be derivative of God and how he created the functions of reality.
A byproduct is a
Like, think about this. If you
result
code a
of-
game, the coder of the game made the game operate that certain way. Like, the coders of Call of Duty made it so that when you shoot your gun, it can damage your opponent. The coders of Call of Duty could have made it so that you didn't damage your opponents when you shot your gun. Or, for example, they can make it
Okay.
hardcore versus core, where in hardcore you can damage your teammates, in core you cannot damage your teammates. You know what I mean? Like, they can create the functions of
Sure.
that certain simulation. So if God's creating reality in that same sort of way, God creates the functions of our bodies. God decided to create miscarriage. That means miscarriage is good under God's view. Because everything God does is good. God created the biological function of miscarriage. That means it was perfect for God to create miscarriages.
God created the natural world. The natural world has procreation, obviously a humongous factor in it. Miscarriage is part of the natural world. So did God create miscarriage? Well, yeah, sure. But why are you talking about it like it's like an evil or bad or weak
You don't
thing?
you don't think it's a bad thing that people have miscarriages?
It's a tragic thing and it's a sad thing, but it's also part of the natural world which God
But
created.
like that God created. So the point that I'm making is that he created these beings just to be killed by his own biological processes that he created.
Okay, so let's say there's a miscarriage, an 8-month-old miscarriage. There's a miscarriage, and the 8-month-old obviously doesn't make it. That 8-month-old, if he or she is in heaven with God, why is that such a bad thing?
Okay, then God should have sent us all directly to heaven. In the same way that
Well,
they're
then
directly allowed to go to heaven, why can't I directly be allowed to go to heaven?
God doesn't make robots where we all go to heaven. He wants free
Okay,
will.
wait, so then why
and
do you
he
make
wants
them
some type-
robots?
Because they haven't lived yet, or they haven't lived yet. They haven't come into the world yet. So
why doesn't he
therefore,
reincarnate
they haven't
them?
made it. They haven't made a conscious decision whether to follow him or not. So
So
he's
then why
merciful.
doesn't God reincarnate them to give them another option?
why should he? Why give them another option? Why not just take them to
Take it
heaven?
to heaven. That's the best option.
Yeah,
Okay, if
heaven's a
taking
better
them
option
directly to
than-
heaven without taking them to earth is the best option, then send all humans directly to heaven without taking them to earth. That's the best option.
No, because he wants humans to make the commitment of whether or not they want to follow him.
Then he's going to want that specific human that died due to the miscarriage to choose him. Otherwise, then it wouldn't be applicable. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't he want that specific individual to choose him instead of sending them directly to heaven?
Because that specific individual had some type of abnormality that
that
disallowed
God created.
person
God
to
made
live
it that way.
he set the table for the natural world, and the natural world dictated that miscarriage, like that person wasn't suitable.
You're
to
trying
live
to
on
act
Earth.
like the responsibility is offloaded onto the natural world when God created the natural world.
Well, God created
So
the natural
God was
world.
responsible. So God was responsible. Do you agree?
God was responsible. I mean, God made the natural world, so there's obviously God has a responsibility. But
So
you
if
keep on
God is
talking about
responsible for miscarriage, well, then the
But real
point that I'm
quick-
making is that God created them in a condition in which, one, they're just going to die. They're never going to go to earth in the first place, and they can go directly to earth. God could, or God to heaven, and God could have created a condition where either all of us went to heaven, or He could have created a condition where they're reincarnated, or
Well,
that they
you're
were
going
never
off this
sent to that
tangent about
miscarried body in the
reincarnation.
first place, or that miscarriage wasn't a thing.
One thing I'm noticing here is we've come upon two different topics: abortion and miscarriage. Abortion, you are claiming to be a positive moral good, and miscarriage, you're claiming to be a negative moral evil. All right, and that's kind of weird because abortion is willingly taking the life of another human being, and miscarriage is the natural world, and God basically saying this person is not suitable to
things.
live in the world, so I
Two
will take
things.
that person to heaven.
Two things. One, internal critique of your own view, meaning that you value them, yet God is removing them from the reality. Two, why are they more valuable? Because that's a wanted pregnancy. Right? Wanted pregnancies in which there's a miscarriage, that's going to be a bad thing because they wanted to get pregnant.
You're placing a person's value on whether or not the mom and or dad want that person.
It's
That
not a
person's
person.
value
It's
is-
not
that
a person
person's
until it's
value- no,
sentient.
hold on.
Not a person
That
until it's
person's-
sentient.
That human being's value is not dependent on whether or not somebody really likes them and has a crib or not.
That's
That
not what I
person's
said.
That person's value is 100% the same whether or
By the way,
not.
that's not what I said. You're being dishonest here. It's not a
No,
person,
well,
and two,
you're
I never
going
said
that way.
the value of the entity is dependent upon that being the case. I just said we're going to have more concerns for this because we care about the concerns of individuals who are the parents in this scenario that are sentient, that were trying to have a kid that couldn't have a kid. In the same way that if someone tries to have a kid, but yet they fail because of some sort of issue that they're dealing with, we're going to feel bad for them, right? Because they want to be able to do this, and it's not working for them. So like if
So
they were trying
let's
to go
say-
through the
let's say-
IVF, but that doesn't mean if, for example, they were trying to go through the IVF process and it didn't work. That doesn't mean that I would value the zygote or the embryo in that circumstance. That means I would value the fact that they didn't achieve the goal they wanted to of having a child.
So let's say there's a kid somewhere in Montgomery, Alabama, right now, or there's a baby in utero at 32 weeks. Right now,
It's valuable.
the mom is a single mom, and right now the mom's like, I don't want that kid. Is that kid valuable?
It's still valuable, yes.
Okay. And then the kid, out of nowhere, the mom says, I don't want the kid. Is that kid still valuable?
Yes.
Cool.
Because they're
So
sentient.
basically you're saying abortion's okay up until 23 weeks, but then after 23 weeks it's not permissible.
Well, after that time, it's just going to be an induction of labor because viability allows for us to terminate the pregnancy without killing it.
So you think they should be able to induce them at like 23 weeks and see what happens?
They should be able to at 20 around that time viability happens and you induce labor early. Around that time that's when people start inducing labor. People are not waiting till that point in the pregnancy just to do a lethal abortion for fun.
Obviously, it's not for fun, but I'm lost there. Induced
why
labor
would
at
they
20.
induce labor at 23 weeks then? Just
Yeah, I'm lost there.
24 weeks is typically like the time when it would happen, but they
But why?
can
But
Okay,
induce
why
it
let
at
me.
why
23.
would you induce labor at 24 weeks? I'm lost.
If someone wants to terminate the pregnancy at that point,
But at 20, so you're gonna induce labor at a 24 week
that
So
can
partial
happen.
baby
It's
labor.
viable.
uh, so it's viable. So then what? You're just gonna roll the dice and see if it lives? I'm lost. What you're saying?
If the point in which it's viable, it can survive at that point. And that's if someone specifically wants to terminate the pregnancy. In most situations at that point, they will wait until a point in which it would be medically safer, right, in order to be able to induce labor.
You're gonna wait. So you're gonna induce labor purposefully at 24 weeks, and then just say, hey, let's see if the kid lives.
Yeah, it's most likely at at that point to live. Is that something that can happen? Yeah. That does
And
happen
if
in
it
some
doesn't
circumstances.
live, just
It
if
typically
it
in that
doesn't live,
circumstance would
hey,
be due
that's.
to medical circumstances.
And if it doesn't live, it's like, hey, oh well. I mean, like, what? I don't know what you're talking
Due to
about.
medical
Yeah, at that
circumstances, the only
point,
reason
if
why
there's
it
a
wouldn't
medical
live is
circumstance,
because
yes. Like that's
the
what you do.
only reason why it wouldn't live though is because you took it out of the womb too soon.
Yeah, but you understand
Otherwise,
that would be likely due to medical need.
no, taking a baby at 24 weeks, if you would have left it in the womb, it probably would survive. If it's going to come out at 24 weeks,
At
and you're
24
going to
weeks, it
say,
will probably survive if you induce labor. That's what viability
Probably
means.
survive, but in the same token, it's going to have a lot of lifelong issues that would be preventable
So by the
if
way,
you didn't try to play God.
you're just not understanding. Typically speaking, when there's going to be an induction of labor at that particular week, it's going to be due to the fact that there are medical needs to be able to do so. People typically won't even do an induction of labor at that point because of the fact that there can be issues in terms of health problems or survivability, things like that. So people typically, if they want to induce labor early, will wait to a later week than that to do it. But it can be the case that due to medical circumstances that people at that time will induce labor at that point, that early, and in most circumstances, it will still survive. Does that make
and then
sense?
what? And then what?
And then what?
And then what? It'll be taken care of by our society.
But, so that is this like a compromise? Hey, let's induce labor at 24 weeks. Roll the dice, see if the baby survives. If it does, then it gets put up for adoption with so many problems that were preventable. Why not just have the baby go to 40 weeks and then put it up for adoption instead of this? Like, hey,
I'm
let's
sorry.
roll the
It's
dice
like
to
you
make
aren't
ourselves feel
listening to
better.
what I'm saying, or you can't comprehend what I'm saying. What did I just say? What did I just explain?
What you're saying is you're going to induce labor at 24 weeks. If it
No.
survives,
What I said is that's typically due to medical circumstances. I'm not going to say it again. I've said this 3 times now. Medical circumstances will typically lead to it at that point in time. Typically, people will wait till later due to the fact that there can be medical concerns.
What data do you have that most times at 24 weeks due to medical circumstances that you just take the baby? Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, due to medical circumstances, they can induce labor at that point. Yes, that's very common.
Talking about an abortion?
If you define abortion as a termination of pregnancy, if you define abortion as a lethal termination of pregnancy, then no, that wouldn't be an abortion.
Then how did we get on this whole inducing at 24 weeks?
Yeah, I'm like, I'm
We were
like,
talking about abortion, so we thought you were talking about inducing at 24 weeks to roll the dice if a baby's going to live or not, like
I'm
as a
saying
form
that
of abortion.
yeah, you
we're
can do
going.
that at that point. Absolutely, that is something that you can do, right? But typically, it's not done unless there's going to be a medical need at that point.
I cannot.
All right.
I'm gonna vote on it.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
I was just saying
you.
after
Listen,
this week, you can induce labor. Does that make sense? Like, it will lead to the
You
survival
can
of it
induce
in
labor.
most circumstances.
How this is some type of like we went from abortion to this being some type of like topic of conversation, and then like hey,
I
we don't
literally
know what you're.
explained everything I said. You are just not tracking.
No,
Like
no,
genuinely.
you're kind of go off on some like personal tangent here.
There
kinda
wasn't a
deflect
personal
from
tangent. I
things.
explained everything you asked me to
No,
explain,
it's
and
like
then you got mad at me.
viability. No, yeah, because you're kind of rude and you're kind of like all over the place,
We went
man.
from abortion to just inducing labor at 24 weeks when a baby can survive, but we're talking about like abortion. So then we were thinking you meant that that's when somebody wants to abort the baby. This is
Yeah,
just too
that
much.
can be
Yeah.
considered an abortion at that point. Because an
Thank you for
abortion is a
your.
termination of pregnancy. And if it's not the death of the fetus, it could still be a termination of pregnancy.
That would be an abortion.
So-
Okay. All right. Well, I
Yeah,
gotta go.
I was
eat.
just
It's been a long
I
week.
was literally explaining it to you guys, and then you guys got confused. I recommend you watch back the conversation because I think you just got confused with how I was explaining it, not that I was explaining it in a confusing way.
Either way. Okay. Well, hey, good conversation. I'll try to come back another time, but we have arrived at dinner. So
Thank you.
thank you.
For sure. Have a good night.
You too.
Alrighty, Mikey, thank you so much for the $5. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, it's just that it can happen. As well as GV, thank you so much for the €5. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Keonan, thank you so much again as well for the $10. Thank you very much. As well as Kathy, thank you so much for the $50 on PayPal. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Kathy. Can we get some W's for Kathy in the comment section right now for the $50 on PayPal? Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Kathy. As well as Amanda, thank you for the $5. Elaine, thank you for the $5. And Amanda, thank you so much for the $5 as well. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you. They said, I had 2 abortions that quite literally saved my life. If I hadn't had access to an abortion, I would have offed myself. They said, why doesn't their God care about my life? Where does the woman's life matter? Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Get some W's for them in the comment section right now. Thank you. As well as Peyton, thank you so much for the $10. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Get some W's for them in the comment section for asking if you would eat raw cupcake batter and call it a cupcake because it's going to be a cupcake in the future. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. As well as Tom, thank you for the $4. Thank you so much. Alrighty, everyone. I'm going to get off for today. Dean should be on live probably within an hour or two. Just letting everyone know. Dean should be live probably within an hour or two. Just letting everyone know. Alrighty, everyone. I love you. Have a fantastic night. Check out my YouTube channel. I would really appreciate that thumbs up on YouTube if you're there. I'd seriously really appreciate it. Good night, everyone. I will see everyone later. Good night, good night, good night. Rin, thank you for the money gun, by the way.